On my recent video, That's Stupid to Look Back, I received a comment regarding my decision to remove the episode on the gender discussion from my channel, and I felt that this comment required a proper and thorough reply. I don't mean to personally dunk on the commenter or publicly humiliate them, but rather to address the problematic sentiment behind their post. So, let's take a look at the actual message they wrote. The larger the audience, the higher the chance that someone will be, quote, triggered by any of your videos. If your videos were hitting 500k views on average, I would take a $1,000 bet that all of them had done so for a wide variety of completely unavoidable and unforeseen reasons. This is not a reason to purge all such content from the internet. Don't understand how someone who has been online for this long still thinks that a single offense is enough to revoke the existence of something that thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not more people find completely inoffensive on a daily basis. Whether it be a PTSD instant or simply a moral high horse Karen, single individuals should not have the power to wipe out works of art and points of view. Let's start at the very beginning. Since PTSD is a real thing, I personally know people who have childhood trauma and suffer from it, and given that I was informed about this event by a trustworthy source, I operate on the assumption that we are talking about an actual panic attack. I understand from the use of quotation marks that the commenter is skeptical, but I hope we can agree that if a person's PTSD did get triggered, that this is not a trivial matter. Keeping that in mind, I actually would love to take commenter up on their bet if it wouldn't happen to have very unlikely conditions and be completely impossible to verify on top of that. Let's be real, even if any of my more casual videos had the potential to trigger such a severe reaction due to trauma around the topic, like say conventions, they would avoid that video in the first place, don't you think? While I agree that it is hypothetically possible that a random edit or something in a video could trigger an attack, the chance that this happened 15 times is basically non-existent. So yeah, get all my videos to 500k views on average and find a way to reliably monitor the viewers' reactions so I can take the commenter up on their bet. I could use $1,000. Joking aside, there is an important difference between triggering a negative reaction by accident with something random like an edit, a phrase, or anything the commenter was referring to as a wide area of completely unavoidable and unforeseen reasons on the one hand, and triggering it by the actual intentional heart of the content on the other. Nobody would, or at least should, hold the former against you as a creator. The harm caused was accidental and could have happened in any context. But we are talking about a very different level of responsibility if you intentionally dedicated a significant portion of your content towards an aspect that turns out to be deeply harmful, which was exactly the case in my video. On a minor note on the reasoning used in this comment, the fact that thousands if not hundreds of thousands or more people don't take offense is not really an argument, is it? Same can be said about burning witches or slavery in the good old days. I do not intend to compare a dumb little YouTube video to those historic atrocities, but to make clear that just because a huge amount of people doesn't take offense to something, doesn't mean that it is harmless, and claiming otherwise? That's a fallacy. Not sure which one. If you happen to know, please tell me in the comments. This is driving me nuts. Finally, let's address the commenter's core message. Should a single individual have the power to wipe out works of art and points of view? Of course not! But, as instantly agreeable as this strongly and dramatically worded statement is, it is barely even related to the situation at hand. To begin with, if you have seen the video in question, you know that it is no work of art. It was a product of a narcissistic smartass who was getting off on the idea that he was superior to all the radical voices out there by staying, quote, balanced through punching in all directions. including down. The video was less a product of my point of view, but of my hubris. And I hope we can all agree that reducing this kind of content is no big loss, arguably even an improvement. But that could be said about many more of my videos. So why have I removed only this one? The reason is a combination of 3 points I hope to get across in my look back video, but evidently should have emphasized more. 1. The aforementioned high level of hurt it caused. 2. That this was completely unnecessary to express my actual point of view I was going for. Namely that the general discourse is unproductive, not in small parts due to people's hyperbolic nature towards minor issues. And 3. That it caused this pain to folks I sympathize with. The reason I decided to remove the video was not that some individual exercised their power over me, but that I acted out of compassion and empathy towards a group of people who already go through enough shit in life for something out of their control without one of the YouTubers they follow causing some additional distress for no good reason. If I wanted to, I could have kept this video up and watched how it keeps generating traffic for my channel, but not the kind of traffic I could have enjoyed. To summarize, no art or point of view was wiped out, let alone by the power of some third-party entity. Just a piece of mediocre content has gotten removed by its creator, because he wants to avoid causing pointless harm to appreciated members of his audience. As I stated multiple times before, I live by a moral code that I cheekily sum up as everything is cool as long as nobody gets harmed. Basically, it is a form of utilitarianism. Maximize the happiness and well-being of everybody, minimize harm, and so on. But with a focus on individual freedom. You can do whatever makes you happy as long as it doesn't hurt other people. If your moral code accounts for similar values, it should be a no-brainer why a piece of content that produces more harm than good should potentially be removed from public spaces. Again, not because some angry entity threw a fit, but because it is morally the right thing to do. Sure, if it has at least some noteworthy value, even if it is something indirect like learning from past mistakes, I am all for preserving it. Put a disclaimer in front of it and put it in a more restricted area. But again, we are talking about a mediocre YouTube video, and I already covered the preservation of lessons learned aspect in my look back video. Now that I have pointed out the numerous shortcomings in the execution of this comment, I want to take a step back and address an underlying issue of our current discourse that it exemplifies. The circumstance that everything gets blown completely out of proportions with overly dramatic and fatalistic language to a point where you can't have a constructive exchange of ideas anymore. I simply removed a badly written video after learning that it was hurtful to folks. And people like the commenter who most likely have heard all that extremist rhetoric about how certain groups want to take free speech away and censor art and how content and points of view get purged and wiped out and other big emotionally charged statements. Then they come across my explanation how I removed a video out of sympathy, and then their confirmation bias kicks in and tells them how they are witnessing the horror scenarios they heard so much about happening right in front of them. The most ironic part of it all, which makes me wonder how much attention they have actually paid to that stupid before the look back. That part is that most of the more controversial themed episodes, especially the one on the gender discussion, were all about me taking a moderate position and calling out the more radical and unproductive attitudes. You know, the very type that the commenter displays in their condemnation of me removing the episode. And that's stupid. Sorry, couldn't resist. But honestly, it is sad that this person just jumps to conclusion, drops these absurdly over-the-top talking points that barely leave any room for a constructive discussion, and all this in the name of a video that explicitly criticized this kind of behavior. I hope that by addressing this issue here in this form, I created a video that provides a more purified version of the message that is at the core of many of the more serious episodes of That's Stupid. Just without all the controversial topics like genders and guns and politics stacked on top of it. This will probably massively limit its reach, but this way I have ensured that my point of view is still out there and has not been wiped out, and without the risk of real harm this time.